They say you never truly know the value of what you hold until it turns to dust in your hands. Marcus Sterling thought he owned the world. He had the billion-dollar tech empire, the terrifying reputation, and the beautiful, quiet wife who waited at home. He also had the secrets, the late nights, the arrogance, and the mistress who whispered that his wife was nothing but a burden. But on a Tuesday that started like any other, Marcus came home to a silence so loud it shattered his bones. No note, no clothes, no wife, and his unborn heir, gone. He thought he was the player moving the chess pieces, but he was about to realize the queen had already left the board, and checkmate was just beginning. The rain battered against the floor-to-ceiling glass of the Sterling Heights penthouse, blurring the lights of downtown Seattle into a smear of gold and gray. Inside, the air was perfectly conditioned, scented with sandalwood and cold ambition. Marcus Sterling checked his Patek Philippe watch. 8:15 p.m. He frowned, tapping his bespoke Italian leather shoe against the marble floor. The gala for the Sterling Cross merger was in 45 minutes. Eleanor was never late. She was the definition of predictable. Quiet, obedient Elena, who wore the pastel dresses he picked out, smiled when he told her to smile, and carried his child with a grace he often took for granted. "Elena," he called out, his voice echoing in the cavernous living room. "The driver has been waiting for 10 minutes. This isn't the night for games." Silence. Marcus adjusted his tie in the foyer mirror. He looked impeccable. At 38, he was the youngest CEO in the sector, a shark in a suit who had devoured competitors twice his size. He didn't have patience for domestic delays. He pulled out his phone and sent a quick text to Chloe. "She's stalling, probably crying about her swollen ankles again. I'll be there soon. Keep the champagne on ice." He smirked at Chloe's immediate reply. "Leave her there. You look better solo anyway." Shoving the phone into his pocket, Marcus stormed up the floating staircase. "Elena, I'm coming in. If you aren't dressed, we are leaving without you." He pushed open the double doors to the master bedroom. He expected to see her sitting on the edge of the bed, perhaps struggling with a zipper, or weeping softly over some perceived slight he'd delivered at breakfast. He was ready to sigh, offer a half-hearted apology, and usher her out the door. But the room was dark. "Elena?" Marcus flipped the switch. The crystal chandelier flooded the room with light. The bed was made, military tight, not a wrinkle. The vanity, usually cluttered with her prenatal vitamins, lotions, and that antique silver hairbrush she loved, was bare. A cold prickle of irritation ran down his spine. "Very funny. Check the nursery." He strode down the hall to the nursery they had just finished renovating last week. It was painted a soft sage green. He pushed the door open. Empty. The crib was there, assembled and waiting. But the rocking chair, gone. The pile of handmade blankets she had spent months knitting, gone. The mobile with the little wooden stars, gone. The irritation shifted into something colder. Confusion. He ran back to the master bedroom and yanked open her walk-in closet. It was stripped. It wasn't just that her clothes were gone. It was how they were gone. There were no wire hangers left on the floor, no stray shoes kicked into a corner. The shelves were wiped clean. It was as if Elena Sterling had never existed. "What the hell?" Marcus whispered. He rushed to the safe, hidden behind the painting on the far wall. He punched in the code. Beep. Click. The heavy door swung open. His stacks of cash were there. His emergency hard drives were there. His grandmother's emerald ring was there. She hadn't stolen anything. She hadn't taken a dime of his money. She hadn't taken the jewelry he had bought her to apologize for his late nights at the office. She had only taken what was hers. Marcus stood in the center of the room, spinning slowly. The silence of the penthouse wasn't peaceful anymore. It was oppressive. It pressed against his eardrums. His phone buzzed. It was his lawyer, Arthur Pendleton. "Marcus!" Arthur's voice was tight, unusual for the stone-faced attorney. "Where are you? The board is asking why your seat is empty." "She's gone, Arthur," Marcus said, his voice sounding foreign to his own ears. "Who?" "The new assistant. Elena." "My wife." The closet is empty. The nursery is empty." There was a pause on the line. "Marcus, stop joking. You have the merger signing in an hour." "I'm not joking," Marcus roared, the panic finally breaking through his arrogance. "She didn't leave a note. She didn't fight with me this morning. She just evaporated." "Check the tracking on her car," Arthur commanded. Right. Marcus fumbled with his phone, opening the app that connected to Eleanor's white Range Rover. He stared at the screen. Signal lost. Vehicle disabled. "She disabled the tracker," Marcus muttered, his hand starting to shake. "She doesn't know how to do that. She doesn't know how to change a tire, Arthur. How did she disable a satellite tracker?" "Marcus," Arthur said, his voice dropping an octave. "You need to come to the office. Now. It's not just your wife that's missing." "What are you talking about?" "Just get here, and Marcus, don't call the police yet." The drive to the Sterling Enterprises headquarters was a blur of rain and red taillights. Marcus gripped the steering wheel of his Aston Martin until his knuckles turned white. She couldn't just leave. She was pregnant. She was 7 months along with his son. She had nowhere to go. Her parents were dead. She had no siblings. He had isolated her, subtly of course, from her college friends years ago. Her world was him. That was how he liked it. That was how he designed it. He dialed Chloe. "Finally," she purred. "I'm at the bar. You wouldn't believe the dress I'm wearing." "She's gone?" Marcus snapped. "Who?" "The cow?" Chloe laughed, the sound sharp and grating against his nerves. "Did she run off to a spa?" "She moved out, Chloe. Everything. She took everything." "Oh, Marcus, baby, that's wonderful." Chloe's voice shifted instantly from mockery to delight. "Don't you see? She saved you the alimony. If she abandons the marital home, it's easier for us. We can finally stop hiding." "Shut up, Chloe," Marcus hissed, surprising himself. "She's carrying my heir. If she thinks she can just waltz away with my son, she's insane." "Don't worry about the brat," Chloe said dismissively. "We can make another one with better genes. Just come meet me." Marcus hung up on her. For the first time, her voice didn't sound like a refuge. It sounded like a drill. He pulled up to the glass tower of Sterling Enterprises. The valet rushed to open the door, but Marcus shoved past him, storming through the lobby. Arthur Pendleton was waiting in the executive suite, pacing in front of the window. On the mahogany conference table sat a single, thin file folder. "Where is she?" Marcus demanded, slamming the door shut. "Have you hired a private investigator? I want the best. Get Kincaid on it." Arthur turned around. His face was pale. "Sit down, Marcus." "I don't want to sit. My pregnant wife is missing." "She isn't missing, Marcus," Arthur said quietly. "She resigned." Marcus froze. "Resigned? She doesn't work here. She's a housewife." Arthur slid the file across the table. "Open it." Marcus flipped the folder open. Inside was a legal document. It wasn't a divorce petition. It was a terrifyingly complex dissolution of a business trust. "What is this?" "You recall when you started the company," Arthur said, cleaning his glasses nervously. 10 years ago. You needed initial capital. You were broke." "I built this from nothing." "No," Arthur corrected. "You had an angel investor. The Orion Trust. You told everyone it was a silent partner from Europe." Yeah, so I bought them out years ago. You thought you bought them out, Arthur said. You signed the dividends over to a holding company. But the voting rights, the controlling interest in the intellectual property for the new Apex chip you're about to launch, that still belongs to Orion. What does this have to do with Elena? Arthur pointed at the signature at the bottom of the document. Marcus looked, his breath hitched in his throat. The signature wasn't a scribble. It was elegant, looped cursive. Elena Marie Sterling, trustee of Orion. Elena is Orion, Marcus whispered. That's impossible. She knits blankets. She watches cooking shows. She doesn't know what a voting share is. She's been Orion the whole time, Marcus, Arthur said grimly. Her inheritance from her grandmother. She never told you the amount. She just invested it in you. Because she believed in you. Marcus dropped into the leather chair. The room spun. The shy, quiet woman who fetched him coffee and rubbed his shoulders when he was stressed. She owned him. Read the letter, Arthur said. There was a creamy piece of stationery clipped to the back. Marcus recognized the handwriting immediately. Marcus, I waited. I waited for the man I married to come back. But the man who built this company with my help is dead. He was replaced by a man who cheats on his pregnant wife with her own college roommate. Marcus's head snapped up. Chloe. She knows about Chloe. Yes, I know about Chloe Vance, the letter continued. I know about the apartment you rented her in the West Loop. I know about the jewelry you bought her using the company credit card, my company's credit card. I am not leaving you because I am weak. I am leaving because I am finished watching you destroy yourself. I have liquidated my position in the Apex project. The IP goes with me. The code goes with me. Good luck with the merger, Marcus. You have nothing to sell. Elena. She took the Apex code. Marcus roared, jumping to his feet. That's illegal. That's theft. It's her code, Marcus, Arthur shouted back, losing his composure. Look at the patent filing. She wrote the core algorithm in grad school. You just marketed it. Fix this. Marcus grabbed a crystal decanter of whiskey and hurled it against the wall. It shattered, spraying amber liquid everywhere. Find her. I will drag her back here by her hair if I have to. We can't find her, Arthur said softly. I checked the accounts. She didn't just leave today, Marcus. She's been moving assets for 6 months. Slowly. Quietly. Every time you were with Chloe, Eleanor was moving a piece of the board. She's gone. And she took 60% of your liquid capital with her. Marcus stood, panting in the center of the room, his chest heaving. The reality was crashing down on him like a tidal wave. He wasn't the king. He never was. He was the jester, dancing for a queen he was too blind to see. And then his phone rang. It wasn't Chloe. It was a number he didn't recognize. Hello? He barked. Mr. Sterling. A rough voice. This is Detective Miller, Seattle PD. We found a white Range Rover abandoned near the pier. You need to come down here. We found some blood. The flashing blue and red lights cut through the Seattle mist like erratic heartbeats. Marcus parked the Aston Martin behind the yellow police tape, ignoring the officer who tried to wave him off. He spotted Detective Miller, a man who looked like he had been carved out of granite and worn down by sandpaper, standing by the edge of the pier. And there it was, the white Range Rover. The driver's side door was wide open, swinging slightly in the wind coming off the Puget Sound. Marcus ran toward it, his expensive Italian loafers slipping on the wet pavement. Where is she? Did she jump? Did someone take her? Stand back, Mr. Sterling, Detective Miller said, his voice flat. He held up a gloved hand. Marcus pushed past the tape anyway, stopping only when he saw the interior of the car. Eleanor's purse was on the passenger seat, spilled open. Her wallet, her phone, her prenatal vitamins. But it was the driver's seat that made the world tilt on its axis. On the creamy beige leather, there was a smear of crimson. Not a drop. A smear. As if someone had been dragged. "Oh God," Marcus choked out, stumbling back. Is that hers?" "We're testing it," Miller said, watching Marcus's face closely. "When was the last time you saw your wife, Mr. Sterling?" "This morning," Marcus stammered. The rain plastered his hair to his forehead. He felt stripped of his armor. "Before I went to the office. She was fine. She was drinking tea." "Did you fight?" "No. We never fight. Elena doesn't fight." Miller raised an eyebrow. "Everyone fights, Mr. Sterling. Especially when there's a baby on the way, or stress." He paused, his eyes drilling into Marcus. "Or a third party." Marcus froze. The rain felt suddenly freezing. "What are you implying?" "We checked her phone logs," Miller said, pulling a notepad from his trench coat. "She made a call to a divorce attorney 3 days ago, a Mr. Thorne. You know him?" Marcus's stomach dropped. Thorne was the most ruthless divorce lawyer on the West Coast. He cost $5,000 an hour. Elena, the woman who clipped coupons for baby clothes, had called him? I didn't know," Marcus whispered. "And," Miller continued, "we found a text message sent to her phone at 4 p.m. today, from a number registered to a Chloe Vance. It said, 'He's never going to leave me. Stop pretending you matter.'" Marcus closed his eyes. Chloe. She had taunted Elena. She had poked the bear, not realizing the bear was already awake and loading a shotgun. "Mr. Sterling," Miller stepped closer, invading Marcus's personal space. "Your wife disappears. Her car is found with blood in it. You have a mistress. She was contacting divorce lawyers. This doesn't look like a kidnapping. This looks like a clean-up." "I didn't hurt her," Marcus screamed, the panic rising to a fever pitch. "I was at the office. I have witnesses. I was preparing for the merger." "We'll check your alibi," Miller said, unimpressed. "But for now, I need you to surrender your passport. You're a person of interest." Marcus stared at the dark water of the Sound. The waves crashed against the pier, black and unforgiving. "She planned this," a voice in his head whispered. The blood. The car. The text from Chloe. She set the stage. But as he looked at the blood again, a sliver of doubt pierced his anger. What if she hadn't planned this part? What if someone else had found her? What if his arrogance had left her vulnerable to real wolves? "Find her," Marcus hissed, turning away. "Just find her." The headline the next morning was brutal. "Billionaire suspect? Pregnant wife vanishes amidst affair rumors." Marcus sat in his kitchen, staring at the tablet. The stock for Sterling Enterprises had dropped 18% in pre-market trading. The board had called an emergency meeting to discuss leadership stability. The front door chimed. Marcus looked up, praying it was Elena, hoping she would walk in, wet and cold, and tell him it was all a mistake. He would forgive her. He would even forgive the business sabotage. He just wanted the silence to stop. He opened the door. It was Chloe. She was wearing a bright red raincoat and pulling 2 massive Louis Vuitton suitcases. She pushed past him into the foyer, shaking off her umbrella. "My God, the paparazzi are animals outside," she complained, inspecting her makeup in the hall mirror. "I had to wear sunglasses just to get from the Uber to the lobby." Marcus stared at her suitcases. "What are you doing here, Chloe?" "Well, I can't stay at my place," she said, as if it were obvious. "The police were there this morning, Marcus, asking me questions. It's stressful. Besides," she walked over and ran a finger down his chest. "You need support. You're grieving. It looks good for us to be consolidated." Consolidated. Marcus batted her hand away. My wife is missing, possibly dead, and you're moving in. She's not dead, Marcus, Chloe scoffed, dragging her suitcase toward the stairs. She's dramatic. That blood was probably corn syrup. She's trying to scare you. Don't let her win. She started hauling her bag up the stairs, up to the master bedroom. Where are you going? Marcus barked. The master, Chloe called back. I'm not sleeping in the guest room. I'm the future Mrs. Sterling, aren't I? We might as well get used to it. Marcus felt a wave of nausea. He wanted to throw her out. He wanted to scream. But he was weak. He was terrified of being alone in this house with the memory of Eleanor. So he let her go up. An hour later, Arthur Pendleton arrived. He looked like he hadn't slept. It's over, Marcus, Arthur said, not even bothering to sit down. The merger? The banks, Arthur corrected. They called the loans, all of them. When Elena dissolved the trust, our debt-to-equity ratio skyrocketed. We're in breach of covenant. They want $400 million by Friday. I don't have $400 million liquid, Marcus shouted. My money is in the stock. The stock that is currently in freefall because the CEO is a murder suspect? Arthur replied dryly. You're toxic, Marcus. The investors are pulling out. The Apex launch is cancelled because we don't have the IP rights. Crash. A sound of shattering glass came from upstairs. Marcus and Arthur looked up. Oops! Chloe's voice floated down the stairs. Marcus, honey, I dropped that ugly vase on the nightstand, the one with the dried flowers. It's okay. I hated it anyway. Marcus went white. That vase wasn't just a vase. It contained the dried bouquet from his wedding day. Eleanor had kept it for 7 years. He ran up the stairs, Arthur trailing behind him. In the bedroom, Chloe was kicking the shards of pottery into a pile with her heel. She had already stripped the bed of Elena's duvet and replaced it with a leopard print throw she'd brought. She had opened the closet and was shoving Marcus's suits aside to make room for her flashy dresses. Chloe, stop, Marcus yelled. It was an accident, she pouted. Why are you so tense? We're free, Marcus. We're rich and we're free. We aren't rich. Marcus grabbed her arm, spinning her around. Did you not hear me? She took the money. She took the company. I am broke, Chloe. Unless I find her and get her to sign those rights back, I am worth nothing. Chloe's face changed. The seductive smile vanished, replaced by a hard, calculating look. What do you mean, broke? I mean the credit cards are going to stop working in about an hour, Marcus said, his voice trembling with rage. I mean this penthouse is mortgaged to the hilt, and the bank is coming for it. Chloe yanked her arm back. She looked at the half-unpacked suitcase. She looked at Marcus, really looked at him, stripping away the CEO title and seeing the desperate man beneath. Well, she said, her voice icy. That changes things. You said you loved me, Marcus whispered. I love the lifestyle, Marcus, she spat. I didn't sign up to be a nursemaid to a bankrupt murder suspect. Before Marcus could respond, his phone rang. It was a blocked number. He stared at it. A strange sensation washed over him. He answered it on speaker. Hello? Hello, Marcus. The voice was soft, melodic, unmistakable. It was Eleanor. The room went dead silent. Chloe froze. Arthur stepped closer. Eleanor, Marcus breathed. Eleanor, where are you? The police found blood. Are you hurt? Blood is easy to buy, Marcus, she said, her voice devoid of the warmth he remembered. A butcher shop in Pike Place Market. Pork blood. Very convincing on leather. Eleanor, please, Marcus begged, tears pricking his eyes. Come home. We can fix this. The baby. The baby is fine, she said. He's kicking right now. He knows his father isn't coming. Stop this, Marcus shouted. You're destroying me. The company is collapsing. I know, Elena said calmly. I'm watching the stock ticker right now. It's beautiful, isn't it? The way gravity works. What do you want? Marcus demanded. Money? You took it all. What more do you want? I don't want money, Marcus, Elena replied. I want you to feel what I felt for 7 years. I want you to feel small. I want you to feel replaceable. Elena, I have a condition, she interrupted. If you want to save the company, if you want the IP rights back, you have to do one thing. Anything, Marcus said immediately. Name it. I sent a package to the penthouse, Elena said. It should be at the front desk. Inside is a single envelope. Open it. Read it live on your Instagram stream. To your millions of followers. Do that. And maybe I won't let the bank take the keys. What's in the envelope? The truth, Elena said. Goodbye, Marcus. The line went dead. The package was heavy. It was a simple manila envelope wrapped in brown paper, sitting innocuously on the concierge desk of the Sterling Heights building. Marcus grabbed it, as if it were a bomb. Back in the penthouse, the atmosphere was toxic. Chloe was pacing, scrolling through real estate listings on her phone, clearly looking for a backup plan. Arthur sat with his head in his hands. Open it, Chloe snapped. If reading a piece of paper gets the bank off our backs, just do it. Marcus ripped the tape. He slid out a single sheaf of papers. It wasn't a letter, it was a script, and clipped to the front was a paternity test result. Marcus scanned the test first. Subject, unborn male fetus. Father, Marcus Sterling. Probability, 99.999%. She wasn't lying about the baby. It was his son, his heir, the only legacy he had left. He looked at the script. The title at the top read, The Architect of My Success. What does it say? Arthur asked, looking up. She wants me to destroy myself, Marcus whispered, his face draining of color. She wants me to admit everything. Admit what? Chloe asked, leaning over his shoulder. That you're a cheater. Everyone knows that, Marcus. It's trending on Twitter right now. No, Marcus shook his head. Not the affair. The business. She wants me to admit that I didn't write the Apex code. She wants me to admit that she did. That she was the one who solved the encryption bug in 2019. That she was the one who designed the interface. Arthur's eyes went wide. Marcus, if you say that publicly, the SEC will investigate you for fraud. Investors bought in because you were the genius. If you admit you were just the face, you'll be uninsurable. You'll never be a CEO again. But if I don't, Marcus said, his voice cracking, she lets the company implode anyway, and she keeps my son. Do it, Chloe said instantly. Marcus whipped around to face her. Did you hear him? I'll be ruined. But you'll still have the shares, right? Chloe calculated coldly. If the company survives, the shares are worth money. If the company dies, we have nothing. Swallow your pride, Marcus. Read the damn paper. Marcus looked at the woman he had destroyed his marriage for. She didn't care about his reputation. She didn't care about his dignity. She just wanted the check to clear. He set up his phone on a tripod in the living room. The lighting was perfect, but he looked like a ghost. He opened Instagram. Live. The viewer count skyrocketed instantly. 10,000, 50,000, 200,000. The world was watching the missing wife billionaire. Hello, Marcus began, his voice shaking. I have a statement. He looked at the script Elena had written. It was brutal. It was precise. For 10 years, he read, I have been hailed as a visionary. Fortune magazine called me the tech prophet. But a prophet implies divine inspiration. I had no inspiration. I had a wife. He paused. The comments were flying so fast they were a blur. Elena Sterling is not just my wife, he continued, forcing the words out through a throat that felt like it was filled with glass. She is the lead engineer of Orion. She wrote the source code for the Sterling operating system. She designed the Apex chip. While I was at Galas taking credit, she was at home, debugging the systems that made me a billionaire. He looked at the camera, tears of humiliation streaming down his face. I am not a genius, he read the final line. I am a fraud who stood on the shoulders of a giant and then tried to push her off. I am sorry, Elena. Please come home. He ended the stream. The room was silent. Then Chloe's phone pinged. She looked at it. Well, she said, grabbing her purse. That was pathetic. I saved the money, Marcus rasped. I did what you wanted. You saved the company, Chloe corrected. But you're a laughing stock. I can't be seen with a fraud, Marcus. It's bad for my brand. She signaled to the door. Driver's downstairs. I called him 5 minutes ago. You're leaving? Marcus stared at her. Now? After I just humiliated myself? You humiliated yourself the moment you thought you were smarter than her, Chloe said, opening the door. Bye, Marcus. Don't call me. The door slammed. Marcus was alone. He had no wife. He had no mistress. He had no reputation. But then his phone buzzed. A text from Eleanor. Good boy. Now come meet your son. The address Eleanor sent was for a private wing of St. Jude's Medical Center. Marcus didn't take the Aston Martin. He took a cab. He felt too small for the sports car now. He wore a baseball cap pulled low, terrified of being recognized as the fraud CEO. He sprinted through the hospital lobby, ignoring the receptionist, and jammed the button for the 4th floor. Neonatal intensive care. Come meet your son. The text replayed in his mind. Was the baby born? It was too early. She was only 7 months along. Had the stress induced labor? The elevator doors opened. The hallway was sterile, white, and quiet. At the end of the hall, standing in front of a large viewing window, was a man. Marcus slowed down. He knew that silhouette. It was tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a suit that cost more than Marcus's car. It was Julian Cross, his biggest rival, the CEO of Cross Industries, the company Marcus was trying to merge with. Julian, Marcus panted, approaching him. What are you doing here? Julian turned slowly. He didn't look at Marcus with the usual competitive disdain. He looked at him with pity. She's incredible, Marcus, Julian said softly. I always suspected she was the brains behind your operation. The code was too elegant for a brute like you, but I never knew she was this strong. Where is she? Marcus demanded, pushing past him to look through the glass. And there she was. Elena was lying in a hospital bed, hooked up to monitors. She looked pale, exhausted, but alive. And in a clear plastic incubator next to her bed, a tiny, fragile baby was sleeping, wires attached to his small chest. Marcus put his hand on the glass. My son. He was born 3 hours ago, Julian said. Emergency C-section. Fetal distress caused by the stress of her husband moving his mistress into her home. Marcus flinched. I'm going in. You can't, Julian said, stepping in front of the door. Get out of my way, Julian. That is my wife and my child. Not anymore, Julian said calmly. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a document. While you were busy reading that script on Instagram, Eleanor signed a new deal. What deal? She sold the Apex IP, Julian smiled. To me. Cross Industries now owns the technology, and since you just publicly admitted it was hers to sell, you can't sue. She sold it to you? For $1, Julian said. She didn't want money, Marcus. She wanted protection. As part of the deal, Cross Industries is providing her with full security detail and top-tier legal representation for the custody battle. Marcus felt his knees give out. He slumped against the glass wall, sliding down until he hit the floor. "She gave it away," he whispered. "Billions?" "She said it was a fair price to pay for freedom," Julian said, looking down at him. "And she wanted to make sure that when you came here, you realized that you didn't just lose a wife. You lost the war." Inside the room, Elena stirred. She turned her head and looked through the glass. Her eyes met Marcus's. There was no love in them. There was no hate either. There was just nothing. It was the look you give a stranger you pass on the street. She turned away, reaching her hand through the incubator port to stroke the tiny hand of their son. "She won't see you, Marcus," Julian said. "The nurses have instructions to call security if you try to enter." "I need to explain," Marcus sobbed. "I need to tell her I'm sorry." "Sorry doesn't rewrite code," Julian said, adjusting his cufflinks. "And it doesn't unbreak a heart. Go home, Marcus. Oh, wait. The bank took the penthouse an hour ago. I guess go wherever you go now." Julian turned and walked away, his footsteps clicking rhythmically down the hall. Marcus sat on the cold linoleum floor of the hospital. He watched his wife touch his son. He was 5 feet away. He might as well have been on the moon. But then, the door to the room opened. A nurse stepped out. She looked at Marcus, huddled on the floor. "Mr. Sterling?" she asked gently. Marcus looked up, hope flaring in his chest. "Yes? Did she ask for me?" "No," the nurse said, "but she asked me to give you this." She handed him a small velvet box. Marcus took it. His hands were shaking so hard he almost dropped it. He opened it. Inside was his grandmother's emerald ring, the one Elena had worn for 10 years, the one he had checked the safe for in part 1. And underneath it was a note. "Sell it. It should cover your first month's rent. Consider it severance pay." Marcus stared at the ring. The finality of it crushed him. She wasn't keeping a trophy. She was returning the last piece of him she had. He clutched the ring to his chest and wept, the sound echoing in the empty hallway, ignored by the woman behind the glass. The fall hadn't been a sudden drop. It had been a slow, grinding slide into obscurity. In the first year, Marcus Sterling lost the penthouse. It was a public spectacle, an auction attended by the very vultures he used to drink scotch with. He watched from the back of the room, wearing a hoodie and sunglasses, as his bespoke Italian furniture, his art collection, and even the custom crib he had briefly looked at were sold off for pennies on the dollar. The gavel banging down felt like a physical blow to his chest, over and over again. In the second year, the legal battles ended. He had tried to fight Julian Cross's acquisition of the Apex IP, screaming about coercion and duress. But the courts didn't listen to men who admitted to fraud on Instagram. The judge's ruling was scathing. Marcus was left with nothing but court fees and a reputation so toxic that even mid-tier tech firms wouldn't interview him. He was radioactive. By the third year, the woman named Chloe Vance gave a tell-all interview to Vanity Fair. She described Marcus as clinging and delusional, painting herself as a victim of his manipulation. It was the final nail in the coffin of his social standing. Now, it was year 5. The Seattle Convention Center was a cavernous beast of glass and steel, vibrating with the noise of 30,000 attendees. It was the annual Global Future Tech Summit, the Super Bowl of the industry. The air smelled of burnt coffee, ozone, and desperate ambition. Way in the back, past the flashy holographic displays of Google and Tesla, past the mid-level software vendors, and tucked near the loading dock doors, was Zona Z. This was where the bottom feeders lived. The companies selling knockoff chargers, discount screen protectors, and generic tablets that overheated if you played a video for too long. Standing behind a folding table, covered in a cheap blue tablecloth, was Marcus. He wore a polyester polo shirt that was a size too big, the logo of Quick Tech Solutions embroidered crookedly on the chest. His hair, once styled by a celebrity barber, was grey at the temples and thinning. The sharp, predatory glint in his eyes had been replaced by a dull, watery exhaustion. He looked 10 years older than his 43 years. "Hey, buddy," a teenager with purple hair snapped, chewing gum loudly. "Does this power bank charge a MacBook?" Marcus looked down at the plastic brick in his hand. "No, it's for phones only. 5 volts. "Lame," the kid muttered, dropping it back on the table with a clatter and walking away. Marcus sighed, adjusting his name tag. It just said Marcus. No last name. He had learned the hard way that Sterling drew the wrong kind of attention. Snickers, camera phones, and cruel questions. He sat on a hard plastic stool and opened his lunch, a cold ham sandwich wrapped in wax paper. He ate mechanically. His phone, a cracked Android model with a shattered screen, buzzed with a notification. "Rent reminder. Your payment is 4 days late. Please remit immediately to avoid eviction." Marcus swiped the notification away. He lived in a basement studio in Tacoma now, a place that smelled permanently of damp drywall and cat litter. It was a far cry from the sandalwood-scented penthouse, but it was all he could afford on a commission-only sales salary. Suddenly, the ambient noise of the convention center changed. The low roar of chatter didn't stop. It shifted. It became excited, focused. The overhead lights in the main hall dimmed, casting the vendor zones into twilight. A booming voice echoed from the massive ceiling speakers. "Ladies and gentlemen, please make your way to the Alpha stage for our keynote presentation. Today, we are honored to unveil the future of quantum computing with the innovator of the decade." Marcus felt a magnetic pull. He shouldn't leave his booth. His manager, a 25-year-old tyrant named Brad, would fire him if he saw the table unattended. But Marcus couldn't help himself. He knew who was coming. He stood up, wiping crumbs from his mouth, and began to walk. He moved through the crowd like a ghost, weaving between the suits and the tech enthusiasts. He didn't belong in their world anymore, but he had to see. He had to know. He reached the perimeter of the Alpha stage. It was packed. Thousands of people were standing shoulder to shoulder, their faces illuminated by the glow of the massive 8K screens towering above them. The announcer's voice reached a crescendo. "The CEO of Orion Technologies. Please welcome Elena Sterling." The applause was deafening. It wasn't polite clapping. It was a roar of adoration. And then she walked out. Marcus stopped breathing. Elena was unrecognizable from the woman he had married. The woman he remembered was soft, hesitant, usually wearing pastel cardigans and seeking his approval before speaking. This woman was a titan. She wore a sharp, tailored white suit that seemed to glow under the stage lights. Her hair was cut in a severe, chic bob that framed her face. She walked to the center of the stage, not with arrogance, but with a terrifying, calm certainty. She didn't wave wildly. She just stood there, soaking in the applause, owning the silence that followed. 5 years ago, Elena began, her voice crisp and amplified, echoing in Marcus's bones. I was a ghost. I was the code running in the background, keeping the system alive, while others took the credit for the interface. A ripple of laughter went through the crowd. They knew the story. Everyone knew the story. It had been the biggest scandal in tech history. But, Elena continued, pacing slowly, ghosts have a unique perspective. We see the flaws in the architecture, that the kings on the throne miss. We see the instability, and when the castle falls, we are the ones who know how to rebuild it. She pressed a button on her clicker. The screen behind her exploded into color. Apex 2, the quantum bridge. Today, she said, Orion Technologies is not just launching a chip. We are launching a new language, a system that learns, adapts, and protects. And I am proud to say—" She paused, her voice softening just a fraction. "I wrote every line of the kernel myself." The crowd erupted again. People were chanting her name. "Eleanor! Eleanor! Eleanor!" Marcus stood in the shadows of a support pillar, gripping the cold metal. Tears pricked his eyes, hot, shameful tears. He remembered the nights he had left her alone in bed to go meet Chloe. He remembered mocking her hobbies. He remembered telling her she wouldn't understand the complexities of his business. She hadn't just understood them. She was the business, and he had thrown her away for a fling and a bruised ego. "She's amazing, isn't she?" Marcus jumped. A young woman standing next to him was beaming at the stage. "She's my hero. Single mum, built a billion-dollar empire from the ashes of her ex-husband's fraud. She's the reason I went into coding." "Yeah," Marcus rasped, his throat tight. "She's something." The presentation ended 20 minutes later. The lights came up, and the VIPs began to flood toward the stage, hoping for a handshake or a selfie. Marcus should have turned back. He should have returned to his cheap tablets and his cold sandwich. But his feet moved on their own. He pushed through the crowd, driven by a masochistic need to be close to the sun that was burning him. He made it to the velvet rope separating the general admission from the VIP lounge. Elena was there, surrounded by security and investors. She was laughing at something a senator was saying, her head thrown back, looking radiant and genuinely happy. And then Marcus saw him. Julian Cross. The man who had been Marcus's rival, the man who had bought the IP for $1, was standing right beside her. He wasn't trying to overshadow her. He was standing slightly behind her, his hand resting protectively on the small of her back. He looked at her with a mixture of pride and reverence that Marcus had never possessed. But it wasn't Julian that shattered Marcus's heart into dust. It was the boy running towards them. "Mum! Mum!" A little boy, about 5 years old, burst through the legs of the security guards. He was wearing a miniature tuxedo t-shirt and light-up sneakers. He had dark, messy hair and bright, intelligent eyes. Elena's professional mask dropped instantly. She crouched down in her white suit, ignoring the dirt on the floor, and opened her arms. The boy slammed into her, giggling. "Did you see me, Leo?" Elena asked, kissing his forehead. "I was on the big screen." "You were huge!" the boy shouted. Marcus grabbed the velvet rope, his knuckles turning white. Leo. That was his son. That was the baby he had ignored in the womb. That was the child whose mother he had tormented while she was pregnant. The boy had Marcus's chin. He had the same shape of eyes, but there was no darkness in him. He looked happy. He looked loved. "Leo," Marcus whispered. The sound strangled. He couldn't stop himself. He lunged forward, pressing against the rope. "Elena!" The shout was desperate, cracking with 5 years of silence. It was loud enough. Julian heard it first. His head snapped up. His eyes scanned the crowd, sharp and dangerous. They locked onto Marcus instantly. Julian didn't look angry. He didn't look threatened. He looked at Marcus's polyester polo shirt, his grey skin, his desperation, and he looked bored. Julian leaned down and whispered something in Eleanor's ear. Eleanor froze. She was still holding Leo. She slowly straightened up, placing a protective hand on the boy's shoulder. She turned. For the first time in 5 years, Marcus Sterling looked into the eyes of his wife. He expected hate. He was prepared for anger. He almost wanted her to scream at him, to acknowledge that he had hurt her, that he still mattered enough to cause pain. He straightened his spine, preparing a speech. "I'm sorry. I was a fool. I miss you." But Eleanor didn't scream. She looked at him. Her gaze traveled over his face, cataloguing the wrinkles and the sadness. She looked at his cheap clothes. She looked at his name tag. And then her eyes went blank. It was a look of absolute, crushing indifference. It was the way you look at a stranger at a bus stop or a piece of furniture you sold years ago and forgot about. There was no spark, no recognition of their shared past, no lingering trauma. She had processed him. She had archived him. And now she had deleted him. She turned back to Leo. "Come on, Bug. Do you want ice cream?" "Yeah," Leo cheered, grabbing Julian's hand with his other hand. "Let's go," Julian said, casting one final, pitying glance at Marcus before turning his back. The three of them, Eleanor, Julian, and Leo, walked away toward the private exit. A perfect family unit, built on the ruins of Marcus's mistakes. "Wait," Marcus choked out, reaching over the rope. "Elena, it's me! It's Marcus!" A large hand slammed onto his chest. It was the head of security, a man the size of a vending machine. "Sir," the guard said, his voice low and threatening, "you're disturbing the talent. Step back." "That's my wife," Marcus yelled, causing heads to turn. "That's my son." The guard looked at Marcus's frantic, sweaty face. He looked at the peeling logo on his shirt. "Buddy," the guard said, shaking his head, "that is Elena Sterling. She's worth $4 billion. You're selling $5 charges in Zone Z. I don't think you know her." The guard shoved him back. Hard. Marcus stumbled, his heel catching on the carpet. He fell backward, landing hard on the floor. His generic phone skittered out of his pocket, sliding across the convention center tile. People laughed. A few teenagers pointed their phones, recording the crazy guy falling down. Marcus sat there on the floor. He watched the heavy velvet curtains swing shut behind Eleanor, cutting off the light from the VIP section. He was alone. The roar of the convention continued around him, indifferent to his tragedy. The world was moving forward, faster and brighter, powered by the code his wife had written. And he was stuck here, in the past, a glitch that had been successfully patched out. He slowly reached for his cracked phone. The screen flickered. Another notification. Battery low, 5%. Marcus let out a dry, broken laugh. He curled his knees to his chest, sitting in the dirt of the convention floor, while the applause for his wife continued to thunder from the other side of the wall. He had wanted to be a king. He had wanted to be feared. He realized now, as the darkness of his own making swallowed him whole, that he had gotten his wish. He was feared by no one. He was loved by no one. He was simply gone. Wow. Talk about the ultimate reality check. Marcus thought he was the king of the chessboard, but he forgot that the queen is the most powerful piece in the game. He lost his fortune, his reputation, and his legacy because he mistook Elena's silence for weakness. It's a brutal reminder that you never truly know who is holding the keys to your success until you push them away. Elena didn't just get revenge. She got the best revenge of all. She became happy without him. What did you think of Eleanor's decision to give the IP to Julian for $1? Was it a genius move for freedom, or should she have destroyed the company completely? Let me know in the comments below. If you are Team Elena, drop a in the chat. If you think Marcus got exactly what he deserved, type karma. Don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed the drama, and subscribe to the channel for more stories about betrayal, redemption, and instant regret. Hit that notification bell so you never miss a twist. Thanks for watching.